In 2005, Mr. Six's Pandemonium opened at Six Flags New England. This would be the first time that Six Flags would work with the German manufacturer Gerstlauer, and these small, family-style spinning coasters became the go-to coaster when the company went through its financial problems in 2007 and 2008. They added 4 more of these coasters across those 2 years. In 2011, they even worked with Gerstlauer to build their first big coaster after coming out of bankruptcy. This was for Six Flags over Georgia and was called Daredevil Dive, a 95-foot, 3-inversion, beyond vertical drop Eurofighter coaster. 6 Gerstlauer coasters were added to Six Flags parks between 2005 and 2011, but none have been added since.
But we begin with that breaking story, a deadly fall from one of the tallest roller coasters in the world.
Yeah, the tragedy unfolded shortly before 7 p.m. last night.
Stunned eyewitnesses say she flew out of her seat moments after the ride began.
Six Flags officials said, "We are committed to determining the cause of this accident," but they also added that at this point it would be a disservice to speculate on what transpired.
This is the story of how a tragedy led to an ugly breakup between Six Flags and Gerstlauer. The problem with Six Flags and Gerstlauer actually had nothing to do with the 6 Gerstlauer coasters operating at their parks. The issue started with another company that was trying to break onto the scene. A new company with a familiar face, Alan Schilke, the mastermind behind some of the most twisted aerodynamics and SNS creations. Now he was part of the Idaho-based Rocky Mountain Construction, or RMC for short, who had the goal of taking old and rough wooden coasters and turning them into world-class hybrids. These would be smooth, steep, fast, and have the ability to pull off maneuvers that were unheard of for wooden coasters, including inversions. Fresh out of bankruptcy, Six Flags decided to give RMC a shot at their first project, converting Six Flags Over Texas's monster wooden coaster, Texas Giant, into a hybrid. For a reasonable price tag of $10 million, Six Flags saw the potential of turning an old wooden coaster that was losing popularity into possibly one of the best coasters in the world. There was one problem with this young company's operations. They didn't have the capacity to make trains for their new creation. This is where Gerstlauer came in, designing trains for what would become the new Texas Giant, and then again the following year for RMC's next hybrid creation, Iron Rattler at Six Flags Fiesta Texas. In October of 2010, Gerstlauer unveiled the trains for new Texas Giant, themed to a 1961 Cadillac DeVille, coming in teal, red, and black, and featuring Texas-style theming. A bull's horn on the hood, a saddle horn on the lap bar, and a look of leather seats. Not only were these trains stylish and well-themed, they were extremely comfortable and allowed the rider to experience all the airtime that Rocky Mountain Construction built into the ride. New Texas Giant opened on April 22, 2011 to critical acclaim. There was nothing quite like this coaster anywhere in the world, and it was the beginning of the RMC revolution that kicked off the day that New Texas Giant opened. It would take home the Amusement Today Golden Ticket Award for Best New Ride of 2011 and would finish in the top 10 for Best Steel Coaster for the first 5 years of its existence. Six Flags would continue to work with RMC to convert old or rough wooden coasters into world-class hybrids over the next 7 years. But on July 19, 2013, a tragic event on New Texas Giant would end their relationship with Gerstlauer.
On Friday night, the unidentified woman, along with her young son, was riding the Texas Giant roller coaster at Six Flags in Arlington, Texas.
This is both scary and sad. A mother falling to her death while riding the Texas Giant roller coaster at Six Flags. There were people on the ride and in line who saw the whole thing.
I mean, when they came back and they were trying to get out of the restraint and they were screaming, my mom, we got to get my mom, she's gone."
Eyewitness Carmen Brown said before the ride began, Esparza asked the attendant to double-check her safety restraints because she did not feel safe, and that the attendant assured Esparza that she was.
It didn't take long for the finger-pointing to begin. The Esparza family filed a lawsuit against both Six Flags and Gerstlauer 2 months after the incident, but Six Flags deflected all of the potential blame onto Gerstlauer and actually joined the lawsuit Esparza filed against Gerstlauer in February of 2014. Six Flags charged that Gerstlauer delivered a defective product that was unreasonably dangerous in design, manufacture, distribution, and promotion. But Gerstlauer would not take this lying down. Their lawyer stated that Six Flags' own engineers approved the coaster and tested it exhaustively. Gerstlauer delivered the trains pursuant to the detailed specifications submitted by Six Flags, and no objections were ever made by Six Flags. Gerstlauer deflected the blame directed at their train design onto Six Flags operating procedures. They also blamed Six Flags for not using the test seat that they provided to the park 2 years prior when the ride opened. Six Flags only started using the test seat after the incident. Furthermore, regarding the lack of seatbelts as a redundant restraint measure, Gerstlauer charged that Six Flags expressly designed and specified in writing that there was not to be any seatbelts on the trains for the Texas Giant. Basically, they were not a passive customer and should not be playing the victim at this point. Six Flags would retort that Gerstlauer assured them that the trains were safe without seatbelts, but this of course is only true if the lap bar locks. He also stated that Six Flags did not properly perform the push-pull test on the lap bar and failed to use an emergency stop button when there were concerns about Esparza's lap bar being too high. And based on witness statements in the police investigation, apparently the lap bar was visibly too high and Esparza had trouble with the lap bar in the station.
One of the employees from the park, one of the ladies, she was like, she asked them to click her more than once, and the guy was like, oh, as long as you heard it click, you're okay.
The lawyer for Gerstlauer also said the company has photos of Six Flags engineers in Germany hanging upside down from a roller coaster train exactly like the one on New Texas Giant. So if proper procedures were followed, there's no way she could have fallen out. But that begs the question, was there an electronic system set up to show the dispatcher that all of the lap bars were in fact pushed down far enough and locked into place? According to an investigator, yes there was. The restraint system works on hydraulic pressure, and each restraint is connected to an electronic sensor that will illuminate in safe mode when the restraint is lowered into a certain position. The operating panel is notified if each restraint is in safe mode, or if the restraint does not come down far enough, the train will not be allowed to leave the station. Investigators interviewed park employees and were told that the safety centers and the safe buttons on the ride were working properly that day. Given all of this information, it seems like the proper procedures could have been followed and the accident still occurred, which was Six Flags' main contention against Gerstlauer. This three-sided court battle went on throughout the spring, summer, and fall of 2014, but in November, Six Flags and Gerstlauer reached an undisclosed settlement with the Esparza family. The Esparza family lawyer stated, "The Esparza family is very pleased with the settlement and appreciates the condolences offered by Six Flags and Gerstlauer. Though the settlement was not made public, the family had originally sought $1 million, and Six Flags had set aside $3 million to cover legal fees." Six Flags Over Texas president Steve Martindale, as well as Gerstlauer attorney Arnie von Waldo, expressed their condolences for the family as well as their satisfaction over the settlement. As for the New Texas Giant, it was closed for 2 months after the incident and reopened on September 14, 2013. The park had completed its investigation and determined that mechanical failure was not to blame, but they did use those 2 months to work with Gerstlauer to redesign the padding on the lap bars and add seat belts. They also introduced the test seat outside the ride entrance so riders could ensure that they will be safely secure once they reach the actual ride vehicle. The ride has been operating for over 5 years since reopening without incident. Nowadays, you're hard-pressed to find any new coaster without a seatbelt acting as a redundant restraint system. All of the RMCs, with their inversions and their aggressive airtime, feature seatbelts along with the lap bars. Six Flags decided to continue using the remodeled Gerstlauer trains for their original RMCs, New Texas Giant and Iron Rattler. But by 2014, when they added Goliath to Six Flags Great America and Medusa Steel Coaster to Six Flags Mexico, they went with the new RMC design trains that they had introduced with Outlaw Run back in 2013. This made the Gerstlauer trains no longer necessary for their new coasters. It would have been interesting to see what would have happened if RMC did not design their own trains, since Six Flags has had no interest in working with Gerstlauer since the incident in the lawsuit. Perhaps some other company could have designed trains for their future RMC projects, or maybe they wouldn't have worked with RMC at all. Gerstlauer has continued to be a major force after the accident, especially in Europe, but also in the US. They built Fire Chaser Express at Dollywood in 2014, Hydrus at Casino Pier in 2017, its clone Adrenaline Peak at Oaks Park in 2018, as well as Hang Time that same year at Knott's Berry Farm. And don't forget the intertwined duo at the new for 2019 Nickelodeon universe at New Jersey's American Dream Mall, TMNT Shellraiser and The Shredder. There's also Tantrum at Six Flags Darien Lake, which opened in 2018, but that was ordered prior to Six Flags acquiring the lease rights to operate the park. Gerstlauer coasters continue to operate at Six Flags parks, along with the trains for New Texas Giant and Iron Rattler. But it's safe to say that there's no love lost between these two giants in the amusement park industry.